If our next speakers can turn on their cameras, we will be dead on time. We'll be... there he is. There's my two awesome speakers. Thank you. When you speak, you come to the stage. You look very well, Stephan. Are you good?
Well, not as good as you, Gary.
No way. I always like to make an effort and put a tie on for these events.
Yeah. Hello, Ingmar. How are you doing?
Hi, fine. So, Ingmar, it's a great background you got there yesterday background you got there. And I was really pleased to catch you yesterday on Clubhouse. Yeah.
Well, you both have some pressure because you've got a title, a big old title. What's possible with communities?
Everything.
Okay. Yeah. I like the sound of that positivity. Tell us.
So, well, take it away, Ingmar.
I mean, we only can solve climate crisis if we work together. So we need to have the whole community, local and global, and everything there between, to work together. So that's how we solve this. And as you know, unfortunately, not many people today are aware about the climate and the situation with the planet, but most people are still sleepwalking into the future, I will say. They are not doing anything about it. They maybe are worrying about it, but they're not acting. But the good thing with internet is that you can find your own community of like-minded people that are willing to act and that are doing the action. And the magic stuff is happening when you get enough people connected. You will have the critical mass, and it's very easy today to have the critical mass because you can connect people from all over the world and build a community with them. And what's great with that is that when people see that a group of people are acting, that is influencing all the rest. So I will say we need to connect globally in order to influence locally.
Well, that's terrific. So just to remind everybody online, so my name's Charles Appleby. I'm the founder of NoCO2.org. We plant trees, so plant enough trees and you can go carbon neutral. So the purpose of this webinar that we're having today is to inform people. It's to help people with what the problem is, what needs to be done, and what we as individuals can do about it. So everyone here has volunteered their time. People are not making any money out of this at all. So it's a real opportunity for everybody to see what's going on and what's being done. So, Ingmar, let's come back to you in a minute to talk about your organisation, because you've got a big organisation, you're making a big difference. But let's just introduce Stephan. So, Stephan, really pleased that you can join us again. So, Stephan, you've been to probably more COPs than anybody on this line. You've been to, what is it, five COP meetings, and you're planning.
It's only 5 now. People have gone to 10 or 20.
You've been to 5. Well, you've been to 5, and you're planning on going to COP26. So Stephan's other distinction is that you are a proper scientist, and you know a lot about climate change, and I know that you really want to use scientists at its best to help people and planet. So that's what I'd have to say about you, Stephan. So what would you say? What's your introduction to yourself, Stephan?
Yes, thank you, Charles. Well, you know, we've been working on this since COP21, which is basically raising awareness. And as soon as I was invited to We Don't Have Time, I joined Ingmar and his team, because I think that the online community that they are building is fantastic, and they are really filling a gap there. Of course, we also need to be active at our own local level. So I'm here in Corsica, and you see we have wood, we have it's green island, so I mean it's blessed with water and great weather. So it's one of the best places on earth to really achieve not only climate change climate protection, but also to achieve all the sustainable development goals by 2030. So you know about this framework which has been set by the United Nations, which is there are basically 17 sustainable development goals that everyone can work on at various levels. And at community level, there are some of them which are easier to tackle, like climate protection or protecting water, protecting forests, creating jobs, and so on. So I think that we all should realize that and talk about this framework, which is really useful to understand what should be done by 2030 if we want to create a better world within 10 years. It sounds a bit like utopia, you know, that we could achieve all this within 10 years. That's probably too short a time frame, but if we try, we can assess where we've gone by 2030. And I think that communities, what I'm seeing in my community and in other communities, that very few people are aware of that. So we need to, again, work on education and awareness. And I think that we need also to connect. And I think that's what we are doing tonight and what you and Gary have been setting up over the past few months is terrific about that. And now we are on Clubhouse, and we don't have time. So it's great. It's great that we are finally building, strengthening those communities. And going back to what Ingmar said, you know, we don't need to convince 50% of the people. Studies have shown that if you're able to mobilize 15% of the population anywhere in a country, in a region, in a city, then things will start to change pretty quickly. So how do we get to those 15% of really motivated people who are able to tell the other 85%, hey, we can do this? I think building communities is the first step, and then showing people that some solutions are ready to work and can work quickly is important, because we have the solution that can really scale up, but are slow to start. And we have the quick solutions, just like tree planting, because that's actually one of the fastest climate change solutions that we have right now in our reach.
So, Stephan, let's come back over to Ingmar to tell people a bit about your organization. We don't have time, and to, if you can, to also pick up Stephan's point about how do we get to 15% of the population to get them involved.
So we don't have time. We are actually a social network specialized and focused on the climate issue. So what you will find if you join us, it's free to join. It's a community where you can discuss how to solve the climate crisis together with other people from all over the world. We have members in 140 countries. And what we do, what the community is doing, is actually sharing a lot of solutions out there to educate people about we have all the solutions we need in order to solve the climate crisis. We just need to embrace them and scale them. And our community is helping all those organizations that are doing that, of amplifying what they're doing and help them to get a wider audience. And in the process, we're also educating each other about so many solutions that we actually have out there. So the platform is kind of a combination of a social network like LinkedIn or Twitter, combined with a rating review platform like TripAdvisor, where you can give climate love to everyone that is doing something great for the climate, but you can also give a climate warning for those that are not doing the right thing. So in the same time we're building this community that are influence people, we're also actually influencing and changing the leaders we have in power, and make the leaders that are doing the right thing, they're getting advantage of doing it, and the ones that are not doing the right thing will get a disadvantage. And that is a very important thing, because if we don't make it profitable to do the right thing and very, very expensive to do the wrong thing, we will not solve climate crisis. And unfortunately, the way our economic system is set up today is the other way around. It's often much cheaper to do the wrong thing and much more expensive to do the right thing. We need to turn that upside down. And the way to do it is not to wait for political leaders to do it, because they don't have the courage to do it. We must do it, and we can do it if we get together. And actually, the 15% we're talking about here, I firmly believe that exists. We only need to cluster it, to connect the ones within that group to work closely together, and we will have that for 15% in place.
So on this webinar today, we've got people already talked about solutions. We've got people talking about more and more solutions. So you're saying, Ingmar, that on We Don't Have Time, you've got solutions already. So would you like to talk to us about some of those solutions that you like and are easy for people to do? So what are the ones that people could think about starting with that you're promoting on your platform?
What I believe in is that all action counts. So your individual action counts, but only if you do it and also influence other people to follow. And that is the same thing if you're representing an organization. What your organization is doing is very important, but it will only have big impact if you have the whole society, other organization, other businesses to follow. So if you're an individual, what could you do about the climate crisis? I will say the most important thing, what you can do, is not focus on not what you are not supposed to do. Because I firmly believe that is not something we can influence other people to follow. People don't follow non-action. People follow action. So instead of talking about give up eating meat, we can talk about eat more plant-based. It's the same achievement, but it's another mindset of what to do. And we can talk about that is much better for your health and everything as well. And it also tastes good if you cook it right. But for giving an advice about where to start, I will give this advice. Start with some area where you think is your knowledge. If you're into growing stuff, start growing stuff for the climate in your garden. If you're into building stuff, start renovating your home to make it more energy efficient. Do what you like and do it in the way that you make it more climate friendly. Because if people see that you're going into something you like, you will influence more people to do it. You don't need to do everything. You just need to get started. And the most important thing what you actually could do is to think of what you're spending your time doing. What is your day-to-day job? Are you going to job and to your workplace and destroying Earth, or are you going to a workplace and planting trees, for instance, and helping Earth? That's your most important decision. What we're doing on this late stage of our time as humanity here on the planet is really, really important.
So, Stephan, what do you think on that question and Ingmar's answer?
Yeah, well, I was involved today in a conversation about burning wood, and the question is, should we continue or should we stop? And my answer was, of course, okay, we should stop, because like Ingmar said, you cannot motivate people by telling them stop doing this. But I asked them, okay, why don't you start wondering about what you're burning and where is it coming from? Is it really renewable, or is it old wood that will take centuries to regrow? And are you shipping it from thousands of miles away, or is it local? And this way, instead of telling people do this or don't do this, you ask them, okay, what do you want to do? Do you really understand what you're doing? Do you really understand what you should change in what you're doing so that it becomes more sustainable? And I think that's the way to go. Really questioning whether what you're doing is the right thing to do, researching how we could improve or do it better, and what new solutions are available to us that in the long run would be beneficial, even though in the short run it requires some thinking and efforts and spending. And where do you want to invest? That's important. Do we want to invest in finding more fossil fuels or insulating houses? Do we want to invest in digging more coal mines or protecting forests, which take thousands of years to grow? Do we want
with
to?
regard to the coal mine, you might have heard that the news, I think, yesterday is that as a result of a lot of comments from people, maybe all over the world, but certainly a lot of comments from people in the UK government is now backing down on having a new coal mine in Cumbria. So for me, I think
It's amazing.
There's a lot of outdated thinking where governments haven't yet realized that they need to bring all these sorts of things together. I mean, where you are, Ingmar, do you have the same thing? Do you have governments who are with the left hand are doing one thing and the right hand are doing another? Do you see a lot of this still in what's happening?
Yeah, definitely all over the world, in all countries, more or less, and also in most large corporations that are, in one hand, they are doing a lot of good climate action, on the other hand, they are doing a lot of climate damage. And that's because if you're a country or a big organization, you're not one leadership. You have many leaders within that organization, and it's very hard to drive change in everyone in the right direction. So what we need to do is to understand that countries are humans, and humans are doing both good and bad action. And we're not going to get the leadership in the world to do the right thing if we only complain about the wrongdoings they do. We must also encourage the good action they're doing, to have them do more of the good in the same time we're complaining about the bad action. So my advice here is to not forget to encourage the good action as much as we are talking down the bad action out there. And it was very great that many people were talking down this coal mine expansion in UK, because otherwise I think they will never change their mind. So it's very, very good to speak out, but don't forget to speak out about the solutions as well, because that could be even more efficient.
Well, talking about the good, let's talk a little bit about Clubhouse. So Stephan's joined. Gary's been on for quite a long time. Gary, you've put a lot of effort into it. Ingmar, you were on Clubhouse last night. So let's start with this question, Ingmar. I mean, I've been really, really impressed. The call I was on last night, the call you were on, I was really impressed by the high-powered people, the standard of debate. Stephan, you should have been there, because they were talking about they were talking about carbon pricing mechanisms and a carbon market. It was way, way above my expertise. We needed you there. But I'm really impressed with this. So, Ingmar, it seems to be a way of coordinating people together. But the question is it just going to be an echo chamber where people are more informed, but are people just sort of talking around this? Or is it really going to be an environment where people come into these discussions, hear the really best quality debate on these subjects, and say, hey, this affects me, I've now got to go and do something about it? I mean, which way is this going to go maybe it's going to be different in the short, medium, long term, but which way is this going, Ingmar?
I think it's absolutely a risk of the echo chamber happening, and when the discussion is going too high level, many people that are not into the field will not feel confident to engage in that discussion, and they will not just participate. But it had happened so much here actually, because of the corona situation and everything. Now we're having this really global community where people without any financial resources could participate in a global debate. And that was only for a very, very few people that had the time and the money to spend to visit 5 COP meetings, for instance. That was not for everyone. Now more people could engage in this global discussion. So we will have a larger group of a global elite dialogue. And that's good, but we need to take it further. So we also include all those people that are not getting there by themselves. So that's why it's very important to not just talk within the echo chambers, but also talk with people you're not normally talking climate with, etc. And we shall not forget the physical world, the workplace, your colleagues, your friends, your family. We must be much more speak out. It's we who has understood must also speak to those that have not yet understood, and that's really uncomfortable thing to do. But we need to be uncomfortable. We can't be only speaking to ones that are agreeing with us.
That's a great point. So,
but I think it's really good to get energy from speaking with people that agrees with us, so we feel that we're not alone in this. We have many people backing us when we speak to those that are not awakening yet.
Yeah. So Gary, I want to bring you in about Clubhouse, but let's just get Stephan's perspective first of all. Is it just going to be too much of an echo chamber, Stephan, or how do we engage these people who aren't?
Well, I'm afraid that Ingmar just turned me on, because being outspoken is tough, and this is what I've been doing, and people have reacted in many weird manners, like from looking at me sideways and saying, okay, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he so passionate? And why is he speaking so loud? And why is he shouting over the microphone and so on? Well, it's very simple, people. It's because there are too few people moving. There are too few people really acting. And this decade, 2020 to 2030, is really about action, because the past decade was about getting together and thinking and deciding what we would be doing. But now we know what we have to do. I mean, we have asked IPCC to tell us the science about climate change, and now we know that there is only so much CO2 that we are allowed to emit in the atmosphere, because if we emit more, we're going to have a problem. And we know what the solutions were. What are the solutions which work, and what are the solutions which will work later? And we know that we don't have time. We know that we cannot spend another decade thinking about how we will decide what we will eventually do. So if I'm outspoken today, it's because I have not been outspoken before, because I have taken the time to think about this, and I've met with many people like you and all the people who are on this conference today. We've all been thinking about this for a very long time. And now what we are deciding is that we are deciding to start acting this year. We want COP26 to make useful decisions, to trigger an expansion of climate action, to start doing the right things. I think that's why we need to be outspoken about, which is, okay, people, let's start doing the right things.
Thank you, Stephan. I mean, just for people online here, the reason we're doing this webinar is to help people, what's happening with climate change, what needs to be done, what we can do, and also to make it easy. And something that's really easy to do, which Stephan mentioned earlier, what's really easy is to plant trees. It does make a difference. Yes, trees take some while to grow, but on average, once you've planted enough trees, and they will be removing your CO2. But we were talking about Clubhouse, and I really want to get Gary's view on this. So, Gary, is Clubhouse an echo chamber, or how do you deal with that? What's happening, Gary, in your view?
Not at all, because you'll always get the Stephans of this world that will defend the status quo. Look, social media, I've been around social media for 10 years, and I think I've got a YouTube video 12 years ago that's been watched by 500,000 people. You've got to, social media it groups people together, and either we're visual or we're kinesthetic or we're audible, and this appeals to people with iPhones who we know are a higher net worth, and it appeals to people that like listening. And the one social media that connects everyone together is YouTube. And so I think that it's a fad. It might pass, but it's a beautiful way for new people to come together. So that's my opinion. But We're running short with 25 past. Charles, how did that happen?
I don't know, Gary, but I'm not sure what you said just now was a good idea, because you said in front of Stephan that you had got the video that's been shown 500,000 times on YouTube. Now, Stephan is going to come back to you on the phone tomorrow and say, Gary, what we're doing with planting trees, we need that sort of result as well.
So now, if you see, when you grab something at the beginning, it's very easy. So on Clubhouse, it's easy to get 1,000 people to follow you. On TikTok now, if you want that kind of traction, very difficult to do on YouTube now. You want to go to TikTok, and if there's any people that want to really get a message out, then I think TikTok is your place, or Instagram. Each platform has its own integrity, if you like. But when you catch it early, you become a leader in it.
Well, I can get my head around Instagram just about, but let's come back to Ingmar. So
Yes.
do we need to reach out to the TikTok platform, or can we achieve an awful lot by persuading people to talk to their friends and contacts? Can we do it on Instagram, or what's your thoughts on these different platforms and how to use them?
What is Sweden on time approach is, of course, influence as many people as possible on all platforms. We're heavily addicted to YouTube. We're heavily addicted to all the social media out there, and you need to find the language and the way in order to be amplified in the right way with lower the algorithm, etc. So that's important. But I mean, what we are using, what We Know the Time is built for, is not just amplifying and all the action to the big crowd. It's more, if you're a group of people, like 100 people or 500 people, that's often enough to start a dialogue with a world leader. So we have engaged with dialogues with everything from the Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, to the environment minister of Norway, to Jeff Bezos. We have kickstarted dialogue on our platform, and with only a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand of people. So you don't need to be millions of people protesting similar to us. It only takes a couple of hundred people to spark a real high-level dialogue with someone in power, and you can change that person doing good or stop doing bad things. So that is the way the We Don't Have Time platform is built, is actually to have the people that are engaged enough in an issue to care and cooperate, to communicate with the ones we have in power, because they often want to do the right thing. They just don't know how to do it, and they need some courage of telling them to do the right thing, and they will do it.
I think it's a perfect platform because you can hide away, but you can still make your voice heard. So it's going to be our platform. There's only a minute left, and we have been running to clockwork.
But just to say something, we should not forget the real physical world. I think the most important thing regarding what we can do when speaking out is the physical world. And you don't need to have 10,000 followers to do that. You can talk to 10 friends. If every one of us are talking to 10 real friends in the real world, we will change the world. It's no more complicated.
Algorithms for humans, not computers. I totally agree with that. And those emotions are amazing. So look, Charles, our next speakers, you've put together some great